Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I want to talk about why Bitcoin has no top, why it's inevitable that we're going to have a $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, $100 million Bitcoin. And I want to explain to you why this is, and I want to share with you 4 key drivers of Bitcoin's growth and what this could mean to your retirement, to your ability to set yourself up for life, to leave a financial legacy for your kids, never have to worry about money or working again. All of these things that right now, particularly if you're in your middle stages of life, 40s, 50s, and you're thinking about planning for your future, your retirement, you really need to be paying attention to all of this right now, not just Bitcoin, but also looking very closely at what investments you have, your superannuation account, these kinds of things, because the reality right now is that most of the legacy assets are underperforming true inflation. And what that means is that if you have your value stored in monetary instruments, assets that are doing 7-8% per annum, then essentially you're selling out your financial future because you're just not keeping up with what's known as the hurdle rate, the true rate of inflation, which is defined as currency debasement, money printing. And so this is the part that is very rarely spoken about by all of the people that we look up to in the media and I guess in politics, economists, financial planners, all of these people from this legacy system. Unfortunately, they don't tell us the truth about money. And a lot of them, to be honest, actually don't really understand the truth about money, because in order to understand the truth, you have to understand some history. You have to understand what inflation really is, what drives asset price growth. And the reality is that most people have been indoctrinated in a system that does not teach that. So we are at a time and place where you and I have to self-educate. We have to self-educate. We cannot get our information and rely on our information from the traditional education system or from the legacy media or from our politicians. Unfortunately, we just cannot do that anymore. So I want to talk about why Bitcoin has no top. Now, there are some really prominent figures out there who have made forecasts, predictions recently, which are very, very compelling for Bitcoin. These are people who spend pretty much all day, every day, studying this protocol, this network, the rate of adoption, institutional money that is coming towards Bitcoin, even nation state money, the US government. And when you piece all of this together, you begin to realize that we are still very, very early when it comes to Bitcoin. And I speak with people every single day. I do one-on-one Zoom calls, coaching calls, consultations. Today I have a whole bunch of these scheduled after this video. And it's really interesting to me that people are now really starting to wake up and realize that Bitcoin is an idea whose time has come. People are looking around at their assets, their real estate, their rental properties, their superannuation funds, their stock portfolios, and they're looking at them and they're looking at the performance and the cost to maintain a lot of these traditional assets, and they're saying, well, hold on a minute. There's an asset over here that is absolutely crushing these other assets in terms of performance, the best performing asset of all time. It's now a $2 trillion asset class, and we know that no asset in history has ever reached $2 trillion in market cap and failed. The future is clear for Bitcoin, so why on earth wouldn't I be paying attention to it? And so people are coming to me every single day now, and they're telling me that they've started their Bitcoin learning journey. And that's a really important thing, because in order to, I guess, get involved in Bitcoin and start allocating your savings, rotating capital into Bitcoin, you really need to go on a learning journey. And I would say that everybody needs to do, somewhere between, 10 to 15 hours of study by reading a book, listening to a handful of long form podcasts, that kind of a thing. And then once it starts to resonate with you, from there you have a basis from which to go to the next step, and that is to start dipping your toe in the water and doing everything in a really methodical way to onboard yourself into Bitcoin. And this is where I really help guide you and guide others. So if you're interested in a call with me, you'll see a link in the show notes. I'd love to meet you on Zoom. We typically go from 45 minutes to an hour. You'll get tremendous value from a call with me. And I'll basically just give you the simple next best steps for you based on where you're at, what your goals are, and what your current understanding is of Bitcoin. And I'll guide you in whichever way you need. So again, if you need to book a call, you'll see a link in the show notes. My calendar does fill up very, very quickly these days. So yeah, jump in there to find a time slot that works for you. All right, now I'm going to share with you some forecasts. Now, ARK Invest, who is headed up by a lady by the name of Kathy Wood, they are a prominent fund manager in the US. Their latest price prediction, right here, if you can see it, try to see it there on the camera, is $1.5 million per Bitcoin. That's US dollars. 1.5 million is their bull case in the next 5 years. So by the year 2030, they're anticipating a 58% compound annual growth rate between now and then. And that's their bull case. Their base case is 40% CAGR, compound annual growth rate, which would take us to over 700,000 US dollars. And the reason why they come to these kind of forecasts, and remember, these people spend all day, every day in the financial system, evaluating trends, where capital's moving. They manage people's money, so they're constantly needing to have their finger on the pulse in terms of their advice they're giving their clients. And the reason they come to these conclusions is because of institutional adoption, the fact that we know that Bitcoin being a scarce asset, naturally when you have a scarce asset and you have adoption coming, you see that the value of something increases. And probably the easiest analogy to draw is when we look at a really scarce, desirable piece of, let's say, beachfront real estate. What do we see? We see that inevitably that piece of real estate always goes up because there's only so much of it. And so for as long as there's demand for that pristine piece of beachfront real estate, there's always going to be some people competing to want to buy that thing that there's a limited supply of. You're going to see the value continue to increase, and this is exactly what happens. But what happens when you have an asset that is even more scarce, an asset that is absolutely scarce? There is only 21 million Bitcoin. There's only 21 million blocks of land in digital cyberspace. Michael Saylor refers to it as digital Manhattan. There's 21 million blocks in digital Manhattan, and on top of that, there's going to be all of these skyscrapers built, where there'll be all these apartments, condos, whatever you want to call it, that will be built on top of these blocks. And so you have the opportunity to either own a whole block or to own an apartment or several apartments, which of course is represented by fractions of a Bitcoin, in other words, known as Satoshis. And so this is where we are now. We have a new value system that is absorbing all of the financial premium out of the legacy asset system. It's absorbing all of the wasted premium out of real estate, out of the stock market, out of gold, out of silver, all of these traditional assets that historically people have, I guess, flocked to store their economic energy, because they know, intuitively they know, that saving in cash is basically committing financial suicide, because they know that They need to protect the value of those savings because inflation essentially drives cash eventually to zero, because you just lose purchasing power by keeping it in a bank. And so wealthy people understand this. That's why they never store their value in the bank. They always park it in assets that are going to hopefully keep up with inflation. The problem today is that true inflation is running at 13 to 15%. It's not running at 3 to 4% like they'll tell you, and this is why you have to stop listening to the bullshit news and these economists who wear fancy suits who tell you that inflation is under control. It's not under control at all. And if you doubt that, you only need to go back and price your life 5 years ago, and your home, your insurance, petrol, groceries, you name it, all of the things that are meaningful in your life that don't form the basket of goods that they evaluate to come up with CPI, Consumer Price Index inflation. They choose the basket of goods. It's a manipulated figure. But why isn't housing in the CPI goods? Isn't housing a basic human need? Of course, if you put housing into the CPI calculation, what would you find? You'd learn the truth. You'd see that inflation is running at what I told you. That is more like 13 to 15%. And so if you have your savings, your superannuation, your retirement accounts, if you have your economic value stored in any asset class that is doing less than the hurdle rate, the 13 to 15%, then essentially you're going backwards. And so this is the thing you have to realize now, and this is why people are flocking to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is where the smart money is flowing now. People are realizing we're in a transition, a wealth transfer. This is the digital age. We're going to have tokenized assets. We're going to have everything on the blockchain. We're going to be able to transact in a circular economy, peer-to-peer. You and I can transfer value with one another with no friction, no counterparty, no permission required, no need for a bank, no need for anybody to be surveilling what we're doing. And so this is the future ahead of us now. And of course, we're very early in this adoption curve. But ARK Invest, so they predict at least a 10 to 12x over the next 5 years. Michael Saylor, he was just at the conference in Prague, BTC Prague, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he did a presentation. You can look it up on YouTube, go to the BTC Prague channel, and you'll see Michael Saylor's speech from Prague. It's about a 30 to 45-minute speech, and he gives you all of the numbers, all of the rundown as to why within the next 20 years, we're going to 200x. So he's predicting a $20 to $21 million US Bitcoin by 2045. And so when you start thinking about the next 15 to 20 years of your life, I want you to think in terms of the assets you hold. Are you storing them in the fastest horse in the race? Are you going to benefit from an asset that is going to beat the hurdle rate? Is it going to beat true inflation? Because if the answer to that question is no, then you really need to start learning about Bitcoin as fast as you can, and you need to book a consultation with me, because I'll onboard you. I'll give you a really clear pathway, 3 or 4 simple steps that you need to take on to get on your journey. And it's really, really important, because there's a lot of information out there. It can get very confusing, and people can make mistakes. People come to me all the time who have made mistakes, and now they're ready to do things right. And this is what I can coach you through. So Michael Saylor, 200x in the next 20 years. We have Australian prominent spokespeople for Bitcoin, such as Peter Dunworth, who is a well-respected financial planner out of Sydney. He guides high net worth individuals who are transitioning from traditional assets into Bitcoin. He's predicting 100x within the next 10 years, 100x, and that would take us to $10 million US per Bitcoin from where we are now. And so whichever way you start to look at this, when you understand that one of the things that's driving Bitcoin's growth, and the reason it has no top, is because it is absolutely scarce. In Bitcoin, we have absolute scarcity. It's the first time we've ever seen that in an asset class. And so what that means is that whatever level you choose to store your lifetime savings, your economic energy into this thing, you know you do it storing it in something that cannot be printed, that cannot be debased. And that is a very, very powerful thing when you talk about compound annual growth. And if you can just have a long time horizon, and like I say, 10 to 15 to 20 years, then it makes so much sense to be deploying a meaningful amount of capital to this emerging digital monetary protocol. Number two is global adoption. Now, where we are now is like the internet in 1999, or say the iPhone in 2011. And we saw that from that time forward, what happens? All of these things, the internet, iPhone, etc., these technologies, they became very much ubiquitous in society. Now you couldn't imagine not being able to or being able to function without the internet. It just couldn't happen. We're just so used to having it a part of our everyday lives. And the same thing with our smartphones, our iPhones. And this is what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is on the same trajectory as the internet, the iPhone, and we're right at that point now where we're still under 5% adoption. And so we know that globally, people are going to be moving towards a store of value that they can depend on. And that's what Bitcoin is. And as people start to wake up and realize what this is, there's going to be a flood of capital worldwide into Bitcoin, which of course is going to drive its ongoing value. Point number three, the reason why Bitcoin has no top is because Bitcoin is decentralized. And as people wake up to inflation and broken money, they're going to realize that Bitcoin is a safe haven. It's a place where you can store your value in a trustless way, in a way that you know those protocol, those rules cannot be broken. And so nobody can come in, no politician, no central banker, no CEO, nobody can come in and change the rules on you. And for me, that's a really potent thing, to be able to have your economic value stored in something that you know is completely dependable. And the reason it is that is because it's decentralized. Really, really important. Nobody's in charge who can change the rules on you. And then number four, and this is the final point for today, we're going to see the rise of the Bitcoin circular economy. You have to understand that at its core, Bitcoin is peer-to-peer value transfer. If you read the white paper from October 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto, he put this white paper out to the world, a small forum group back then, and it's evolved. But what people saw on that white paper, and you can look it up, you can find it on Google, the Bitcoin white paper 2009, and you'll see the heading that says peer-to-peer electronic cash. And so even though we've fallen into this narrative in the last probably 10 years, maybe 5 years, of Bitcoin being pristine collateral, digital gold, never sell your Bitcoin, generational wealth, it is all of those things, and its performance substantiates that. It is also a medium of exchange. And so what we're going to see, particularly with these layer 2 solutions such as Lightning, we're going to see that we're going to have a circular economy evolving. And there's already applications. Jack Dorsey's company, Square, they now have built into their application that merchants can offer their customers the ability to pay in Bitcoin. So very soon we're going to have businesses, and in my business, I also accept Bitcoin, so people can pay in Bitcoin or they can pay in dollars. There are businesses, particularly in America now, that are emerging very, very at a very fast pace, particularly in the fast food industry, that are now offering Bitcoin payments to their customers. So this is emerging, this is happening, and we are right at the beginning of this. And so just understand that when you store your value in Bitcoin, as Bitcoin's adoption grows and this circular economy emerges, you will have the opportunity to actually transfer value and exchange in a peer-to-peer way with absolutely no friction, instant settlement, no fees, and that is going to be a revolution in the monetary system. So I want to leave it there today, but Bitcoin has no top because fiat currencies have no bottom. They're going to continue to be inflated to zero. This is going to drive unprecedented growth for Bitcoin. We know that Bitcoin is absolutely scarce. It cannot be changed. It's highly divisible, meaning you can get involved at any level. There's global adoption coming. We know that it is decentralized. Nobody can change the rules on you. And we're going to see a rise of a circular economy, which you're going to want to be a part of, because if you understand what's coming in the form of central bank digital currencies, another word for surveillance money, you're certainly not going to want to have your digital ID, your credit score, your carbon credits, and all of that tied to your money and your spending habits. So I'll talk about that in another video, but for today, I want to leave it there. If you need to book a call with me, just look for the link in my show notes, and I'd love to meet you on Zoom and help you on your way. Other than that, I want to thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. This is Zane signing out.